Hey guys, welcome to a special session of RBTL, or Reading Between the Lines. This is a special edition because this was dropped definitely unannounced. It was a surprise. As you can read there, it's a balance adjustment direction notice. This is an address to us as the players. From the devs perspective, what are the things they're gonna do to fix the current quote-unquote meta problem? This will be kind of my commentary, my thoughts of this development note, and again, for those of you who don't know, I am a game dev myself, and I will have to say that Epic 7, and I said this in many videos over the last couple months, that they have kind of cornered themselves in a really tough position as I reviewed each individual hero kit and all that stuff. And so in light of that, I have great respect for Epic 7 and the devs, and even if you want me to raise my pitchforks and torches and stuff like that, you're not gonna really get that from me. Although I will be very blunt in what my opinion on is, like some of the things that they are, I guess, proposing. I don't know if it's really on point in terms of, like, I don't know if they know what the real issue is. But either way, first, like, they apologize for the late notice and stuff like that, and it's better late than never. However, I will have to say that this notice should have came like 3 months ago. The thing is, I believe that the devs are not, like, they're keeping their pulse on the game. They're keeping their pulse on the streamers that play like World Arena and stuff like that. And that's not just like the global players, the Korean players, like the Chinese players, they keep an eye on that stuff. And like, even as just a Twitch viewer myself, or even yourself, you can see like it's the same picks pretty much over and over. That's why, like, when there's like a special pick like Evelyn or something like that, people get excited about it. It's content, right? Because it's really out of the ordinary. But if you play World Arena, which is technically the end game of Epic 7, if you play World Arena, you would experience that yourself. And I have to say that this notice is definitely for those players, for the end game players, or the players that are struggling to find an incentive to play with a kind of stale or bland sort of meta. Yeah, there's a lot for me to talk about, but first things first, I definitely think that they came to this notice too late. So before we get into the actual details and breaking it down, my conclusion for this, after we go through it, you'll probably feel the same, but I'm just gonna tell you the summary or my conclusion right away, is that I feel that this came a bit too late. In terms of, they came too late to tell us that they're sorry, they see that these are issues, and they already proposed solutions. But I feel like if they were open, and this is, again, being a game dev is not easy, they might not be that open, so, and you can't blame them for not being, because they're a game dev, they designed the game, they can do whatever they want technically. But ideally, it would have been better if some sort of notice came out early, and it wasn't a notice about here's what we're going to do to fix it, but rather it would be more of like, here's what we propose that we'll do. If you guys have comments, we'll be open for it in the next 3-4 months, something like that. So but I'm pretty sure, like, you know, them putting a couple things down on the board is also a conversation starter, in the fact that, like, if people like violently react to something or oppose to one of their ideas, maybe they'll reconsider it. So they usually do, you know, set that as a something that is always possible, like it's, you know, it's tentative to change, etc. So to buffer, keep themselves kind of from liability. Regardless, they tell you the reason of why they're doing this is basically the balance adjustments. They know that some of them are overpowered. Yeah, common opinions of the players of the current meta, thoughts about it is not much different. So they agree with this, and again, like I said, this is not an idea that they saw, like Angel of Light, Angelica, Rimuru, like these guys, like they're too OP, Ravi too OP. This is not something that just came to a conclusion to. They saw this at the tail end. They saw those collabs, like the collab heroes being super good, Green Violet, Rem, just being disgusting. hard to deal with. Bellion as well, maybe at the tail end there, was really hard to deal with of the previous season. I forgot what it's called, Ambition season. So it goes on to say the most important goal in the balancing adjustment for us is to improve the utilization of heroes and artifacts based on the data. We didn't want to put any of the players in a situation where they must use a hero with the highest stats after putting so much effort and time raising and improving hero artifacts that they like. Now, the thing is, like, being a realistic gamer, there's really not much you can do in terms of, like, just there's going to be old heroes that are just going to be not used because there's going to be better heroes. That's never going to change. There's something that, like, for my viewers, there's something you have to understand. Like, it doesn't matter what they propose here. The issue is that, especially, again, they're aiming this issue, again, at World Arena, right? World Arena is really where that data, like, makes the most sense. A World Arena is locked to a specific pattern. You're going to be launching with 5 characters, one of them of which is going to be banned. You end up with 4. Because there are limited slots like that, it doesn't matter what you nerf or whatever. You can slow down power creep. That's something that is definitely doable. But you can't really get to a point where you just, like, you fix it because the format is that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to describe this in a, like, a tangible or visible, like a visual type of thing. But it's not just about overpowered characters. If you guys remember, like, there was the meta where Carrot was really dominant and then she needed to be put down. And it's like that. Every single season had those, like, OP characters, and if it was hard to obtain, it was just hard. Honestly, that has always been the case. Like, there was the A Tywin, the Golden Boys meta. Carrot was her own meta. A Tywin was just really disgusting when he got buffed. So if we're talking about that in terms of, like if they're trying to fix that, you're never gonna fix it. You're always in a race to fight for the 10 hero slots of the best choice of that, and there's always gonna be, like, 1 or 2 heroes within a certain role that you would choose over others. So it's always going to be the case. That is something that I think the devs should know. I'm pretty sure they know, but the players have to know that, right? The players have to know that. The only reason why it just feels, like, so tiring is because there's always going to be new heroes released. If they're not a good hero, you're just going to be like, okay, I'm never going to use them. If they're a good hero, they're too good because they're overused and it's stale again. So you're always gonna have that issue regardless of how they balance things. Okay, they do propose other things in here, so I'll give my advice on that, or my opinions on that. So in particular, the voices of the players who wish to use certain 5-star ML heroes are difficult to obtain. It was something that we could not neglect. So I think really, like, ML5s, you know, have always been high priority. I think they even say that here. I'm not gonna read, like, every single line, at least the beginning portion, but they basically said that we did strictly make ML5s more powerful for PvP and stuff like that, but harder to obtain, like A Ravi when she got the buff, and then ML Cowrick when he got the buff. They're really good. Like, I myself, I don't have ML Cowrick. Like, it mentally, I feel like I would be at a disadvantage. But, you know, it is what it is. But regardless, they are just saying that is yeah. So over here, so however, due to the high difficulty of acquiring the ML5s and the long missed rotation cycle, the balance adjustment made in the past only created an imbalance of benefits between small number of players who had such heroes and those who did not. So, but really what it is, especially at the top end of the World Arena, it was more of, like, who got to pick A Ravi first, right? I'm very generalizing that, but that's really what it is. It's not necessarily players who didn't have them, although there were some individuals who are, like, Champ Plus, Emperor, even maybe not Legend, but they didn't have a Ravi. I know that, you know, there are always going to be players who don't have everything, but it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that they didn't have it. It was who got to use them, right? So in addition, giving new heroes competitive stats abilities equivalent to the dominant heroes was a major reason that worsened the current issue. Yep. We have been putting in efforts to move diversity in the World Arena, Guild War, and a regular arena. I do see that, I have to say. So for example, like ML Celine is like a good, very, very good Guild War offensive hero. But then people pulled her because she's waifu anyway. So, I mean, that I don't have to talk about that. But really, yes, there's some characters that are definitely really obvious. Like, oh, will the arena be really strong? Sometimes it's just arena offense, maybe arena defense, Guild War offense, Guild War defense, etc. Our balanced team's main priority is to aiming to curb the power creep since the game's launch, to maintain the value of the hero's equipment of the players as much as possible, to provide an environment where players can enjoy Epic 7 for a long period of time. This is something that I have to say is not something you can blame them for. Like I said, you cannot find a game that does this well, and games that can balance well are games that have set this expectation for the players to understand that, okay, if things are nerfed, so be it. We're just shifting how we play this season. Instead of right now, I feel that they're either just unwilling because they're devs, or they're afraid of some kind of backlash of nerfing. And I know there's both sides to this coin, okay? So you hearing me would be like, oh, Jagan, nerfing's not gonna fix anything. We're just gonna get we just want compensation or whatever. I'm not saying the nerf will fix things. I'm just saying that there are games that do nerf characters, and that can be beneficial. So I myself, I'm not a Summoner's War player, but I've said this before, maybe in other videos, but I've had Summoner's War players tell me that they have nerfs left and right, and I ask, do the communities get angry? They're like, no, they just accept it as the norm. The issue with Epic 7 is that that's not normal. So is that a question of, in the future, is nerfing going to help? I'm not saying that nerfing will help all of your benched characters be playable. I'm thinking of a more like a shifting thing, like a seasonal shift, where things can be playable again because other things are less relevant. So for example, this is a bad comparison, but let's compare Fire Ravi to A Ravi. So let's say in one patch, A Ravi gets nerfed. Would Fire Ravi be more dominant again? Would that be the player's choice? Now, that's not a good comparison because there's elemental advantage and all the different little nitty gritty stuff. But you know what I'm talking about? So it's not really about like, okay, let's make everyone usable. Because again, you can't. RTA, 10 slots, 4 slots are actually making it into the fight. What could be good is that there's seasonal shifts, so that your previous invested heroes at a certain season, because of the buff or a nerf of another hero, can be more played. And that, to me, is a bit of a better long-term goal. This, maintaining the value of heroes equipment, this is an impossible thing. This is like saying a content creator has to get everyone to like them, otherwise they're not a content creator. You're always gonna get haters. You're always gonna get people with differing opinions. You can't manage it. It's just too big. Especially Epic 7 is still growing in terms of the characters. And 4 stars and specially changed heroes are getting stronger, and they will say that they will make them stronger too. So, however, this resulted in an issue where there not much change in the PvP meta, repetitively stale. To counteract this, we have been trying to alter the meta by applying changes to periodic balance adjustments, and we saw that, right? So there's two things that ends up with this: OP characters get overplayed, or underwhelming characters that don't get played. There's only really that option. I mean, there are some of them that are in the middle that they do get played, but they're not too OP. And you were just like, okay, that's perfect, right? But it's also that they fit in a specific mechanic meta. Let me just say that mechanic meta. Like there are mechanical metas that have been kind of in the game, and sometimes they go on rotation. So like the CR boosting the meta, and you could say like speed cleave meta, and they call it like the DPS tanky meta, which is actually, I don't see that changing again. But anyways, let me just continue. So the meta last summer where Covenant heroes had advantage over each other can be an example. I think what they're talking about is like the RGB. So like the Violet Rem, the Rimuru, that kind of introduction to those characters, the meta last summer, that was the tail end of Ambition. However, our decision to trying to improve the Moonlight heroes were less meta competitive without sufficient consideration and improvement of the acquisition of is what we regret the most. Not only have we interfered with the existing balance of the heroes we carefully improved and managed, but mainly because we have greatly tarnished the trust of players who are always patient and supportive. I mean, these words are all nice, right? And yes, I do believe that the players are pretty patient. So I mean, it's true. Our intentions moving forward are partially reflected in this February balance adjustments. So yeah, so this balance adjustment, I had to say, if this was their intention, it was definitely seen. So when I rated the balance patch, I never said that anyone would be OP. I felt that like Dilibet, Solitaria, they will all see more play in their roles. I didn't think that they would be OP. So I think that's what they're trying to say here. So in the future, we will not improve ML5s. Okay, so this is an important part. We will not improve ML5s that are not used as much unless we confirm that it is a way that will improve the current state of the game. So this is an important thing. Okay, so for the past, year and a half, maybe 2 years, it's all about pull every single hero, because if they suck, they'll get buffed. That's not going to be the case anymore, which I think that this could be, it's good in terms of this is what's needed to slow down the power creep, but it's also bad in a way, because then you would have to still be hoping they don't buff something that is bad. You know what I mean? So like with this being said, it's more of like, okay, you could pull on a crappy hero, you're not guaranteed that they're gonna get buffed, maybe even ever. And then if you pull it and you pity or something and you wasted it on, and then the next one is OP, so what are you gonna do about that, right? But then again, going back to that, this is a gacha game. You're supposed to be a whale. You're supposed to incentivize to pull everything, or just be a big luck sack. That's a whole other aspect too, right? There's a business aspect too. But in terms of like from the free-to-play players aspect, or even the light spender aspect, you gotta have to change up the strategy. This is now gonna be even more of a risk in terms of pulling the ML5s. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that is something I wanted to point out, okay? So we will do our best to prevent certain heroes from becoming excessively powerful, even if it's necessary to create new changes in the meta. Also indirectly curb the power of some, Also, to indirectly curb the power of some Moonlight heroes, we will try to improve the Covenant heroes and especially change heroes further. So basically what that is like normalizing it to make the MLs less OP. That will make the Covenant heroes stronger and especially change heroes stronger. I think that they do a really good job, in my opinion, on making the limited, especially the collab characters, quite strong. Especially for the meta that they were released in. You do have to keep in mind that Smilegate, when they release a new character, they are designing based on the current state of the game. There are arguments, like I've seen a comment or two saying that Jagan, they know what they're doing, they have a 10-year plan. That's not what a 10-year plan means, by the way. The 10-year plan means that it's a 10-year vision of the game. Things are like, again, I'm a dev. We have we have multiple year plans. It's really about a vision, a grand vision, and how you achieve that vision could be many avenues, and things are organic, especially in a live game like this, a gacha game. So no, they don't know what they're designing for unless it's a new mechanic. And when they're throwing a new mechanic, it doesn't happen on every character. When they're throwing out a new mechanic, it's always just to see what else they can do. But that comes rarely. Most of the characters are designed to counter certain things. So when Milim was made, like when Milim was created and I reviewed it, it was really obvious what she was really good into, right? Like the guiding light, the Landy specifically, like Landy could like literally not hit her. So like Landy fell in terms of like high use rate, and so therefore the Covenant heroes, if they're just talking about the regular RGB, yeah, I guess if they get stronger, but that's still going to be an issue, right? We're still fighting for those limited slots, so there's always going to be meta characters. If these changes do not produce enough results to satisfy our players, we're considering readjusting the stats and effects of the current class signs and exclusive equipment. Now, I'll stop at this point here, or maybe I'll continue a bit and I'll conclude this. However, we'll prioritize creating positive change to the meta by causing the least inconvenience of the players before balance adjustments by adding exclusive equipment, especially change heroes, as changes in class signs. So this is basically saying that this is the last resort. But I did say that this is coming. I said this, I'm pretty sure in my Piera initial thoughts video, I literally said that the stats are going to be improved. Like, or maybe I didn't say that, but one of my commenters commented it, and I think I commented replying saying that I wanted to say that to normalize it, because like ML Lilius, Piera, and just all these like new characters getting like really high base speed is kind of alarming, right? These are star signs that were never touched in terms of the class and the star sign, the combo. ML Lilius was the first of her kind in terms of the warrior. I think she's Aquarius. I don't remember the star sign specifically, but she's the first of her kind to be a warrior with that kind of speed. Piera is, I guess, not. No, Piera's not like. Oh, Piera is new as well. 128 speed, but matches Assassin Sid, which is a 4-star. So when there's a 5-star of that, and people on my YouTube commenting that Wanda is a 3-star and she's really fast, so if she has a 6% equivalence of the 6-star, whoo, the Wanda star sign for a ranger at a 6-star, that's gonna be nuts. So I do believe that this can be coming. All right, they're saying that this is a last resort pretty much, but the readjusting the stats is a possibility. All right, so the process may take some time, but we appreciate players understanding and preparing changes as carefully as possible, because modifying the current structure significantly or intervening directly by nerfing specific heroes could lead to greater issues. So I like how they chose the word nerfing here. What they have to understand is that whatever they do is throwing a pebble into a pond, and that ripple effect will affect things that they may not foresee, right? Just the interaction in terms of team compositions, team chemistry, and then also opposing teams. How does that work out? So basically saying that this is saying that we don't want to intervene directly or by nerfing. It's basically saying that they won't nerf, and they're saying with everything that's said here, they basically don't talk about nerfs. Now, I know that the nerfing crew is one side of the coin, so I'm not saying that every player wants a nerf. I'm going to do my best to say that I would say it's about 50-50. I've seen both arguments on both sides, both pretty in-depth arguments. I still think that nerfing could work. Again, my proposal would be a seasonal shift in terms of, like, let's say 20 heroes are more useful in this season, and then rebalance and then nerf and balance, and then you'll find another 20. That is more comfortable to me than saying that, like, okay, one is OP and then there's like this other one that's not really good anymore, so bye bye to, I don't know, DJB or something like that, right? But that's just my opinion. Okay, so while I'm being a game dev does not necessarily mean that I know all the answers. I just don't feel that not nerfing, like putting nerfs out of the question, is not a smart thing. That's my point. I don't think they should dismiss that possibility. But if they think that they can handle it without nerfing, then that's fine. Basically, their reputation in terms of the devs communicating with the players, I think it's spot on. It's great. They give us a lot of respect, and I think they did demand that respect as well. And I'm okay with giving them that respect. I just have to say that like what I saw is that if they made an EE2 OP, of course that player that character will be used. If the EEs suck, the exclusive equipment suck, no one uses it. I have to say the last 2 EE patches were pretty bland, and that's just because I already know it's really hard to make them strong without making someone OP, right? So that's the interesting dilemma that all of us players are seeing. Again, with the balance patches, with every single change that they do, if something is not OP or stronger than X hero, I'm not gonna use them, right? Even if you like them, but things are really expensive, especially MOLA, especially if you're free to play. So improvements on equipment. So this is their like proposal number 1. They're showing us like this. So let me see here. So yeah, we will improve the unique effects of the equipment sets to expand the potential strategic values of the heroes that are not in the center of the current mainstream meta. For example, injury set on Bellion and penetration set on other heroes have been reassessed by players, and the usage rates of them have been increased. Refer to the table below. So I mean, they take data in terms of even percentages and double decimal, right? So like, you know that they're watching, you know that they're collecting data. Obviously speed set is really important, and then look at the crit immunity, hit set pretty good, health set, I'm actually surprised health set is at 9.2%. penetration set really going higher. If you compare the numbers there, injury set, even though it got to 1%, I definitely say that injury set is not a very strong thing. I've said this in other videos, but just in case you're kind of new or this is the first video you watch me talk about injury set is not really that strong anymore, just because it lacks the injury set was good for when people like just turtled, but most players don't play like that anymore, and even without turtling, like artifacts or skills that have like extra damage or straight up true damage, like Rimuru, the F10 artifact, the Fairy Tale for a Nightmare or whatever on Archdemon's Shadow, like that flat damage, that fixed damage just kind of cuts through the need of injury, to be honest. So injury definitely falling down, like falling short, and then other players are just playing more aggressive, speedier, faster kill. So like injury really doesn't serve its original intent anymore, because the meta has shifted. Okay, so this, I mean, if they shift something to do with the current meta and they understand the current meta, we could see some pretty interesting stuff in there. I don't know if this is the solution though. Changing the equipment, improving the equipment. I don't know if that was the issue, but it's okay. I'm just gonna say that. Balancing adjustment on the equipment set. So improving the current set, something would be a large role in the PvP, expand the synergy of the heroes. They already tried to do this, and we did see, again, penetration set coming in from 10% to 15% defense pen was enough to make players use it, whereas before KDs was hardly farmed. The injury set on specific heroes plus an increase of 1% got people to play with it, especially understanding Robbie's injury, how effective it could be over time. It definitely did work. So having a readjustment of this could be good. I don't know if that fixes the balancing issue. So I personally don't know if, unless they nerf speed set or something. But that's not what I'm saying will fix it. But in terms of what I see, I don't think that's the issue again. It's not really the sets, because players who find a set underwhelming would just use a different set, right? People are saying that in Summoner's War there's a set called Violent Set, and saying that Violent Set incoming. I think Violent Set is, if I'm not mistaken, it's RNL, but in a set. And in Summoner's War, at least, it's without a cap. I think that would be outrageous in terms of, I don't think Epic 7 would ever adopt that, but that's just something that is in the back of my mind, or back of players' minds when they see something like this, right? So once again, we will closely evaluate the efficiency of the equipment sets before planning improvements gradually. Alright, that's fine. The current equipment system we address simultaneously with other system. Be very challenging for us to resolve the issues. So basically, they're saying again, they'll do one or the other, right? New equipment sets. Now this is where the violent set or whatever was mentioned by other players. We are concerned, as many as our players are, making adjustments to current sets would not make enough changes to performance balance of PvP, so we're adding new equipment sets to give more selection to players. What is it going to be? New equipment sets will be obtainable from hunts that are currently available, and no new hunts will be released for the new equipment sets, so they'll be tacking on the equipment sets onto current hunts, basically. How I feel about this, I think that this could be good. I think that this might be the necessary thing. Games like Raid Shadow Legends, which is honestly similar game loop to Epic 7. You basically pull for characters, you farm for gear, you farm for sets, and there's always going to be some meta sets. And I think that's the case in Summoner's War as well, and I think that will remain the case for Epic 7. Now, with new equipment sets, if they design it properly, yeah, I think it might make some characters more usable, maybe, without them even having to buff the hero. I just can't imagine what yet, but I think that the possibility is there, that it could maybe enhance a current mechanic within a hero that's underused. I don't know what that looks like, but, you know, they're confident in this. But just the very fact that most players say that, oh, Epic 7 is just literally copying Summoners War, they're just worried about the violent set and maybe other disgusting sets that I don't know about. But yeah, new sets I think is inevitable. I'm not too surprised about that. So improvements and additions to the PvP system. So I think the one improvement that they have here that would maybe fix the staleness of World Arena would be this. So for the regular season, the pre-ban will be applying to 2 heroes, as well as expanded pre-ban. The Battle Frenzy effect will be continuously reviewed and adjusted. I personally don't think the Battle Frenzy has any issue, and I've been out of touch with World Arena. But in terms of my foresight into the game, I don't predict Battle Frenzy is any issue. Anyways, if you feel Battle Frenzy is an issue, definitely leave in the comments down below. I'd like to hear what you have to say. But the last season for Ambition, I don't feel Battle Frenzy could have been better or worse. I think it's actually fine. They don't need to touch it. We'll probably have to see how the 2 pre-ban thing goes though. So I also heard like, you know, players saying that, oh, this is gonna be good for cleavers, this is gonna be bad for cleavers. I think overall it's a necessary change though. So here's the thing about the double pre-ban, or like other proposals were like global bans, like targeted global bans per week. Remember when Guilty Gear wasn't on all of the Epic 7 servers, and you had like the Guilty Gear characters like locked? Like that UI was already created, that system was already created. Why not bring that back? I think that would be good too, right? Because if you have like a targeted, maybe a weekly like global ban, players would have to think on their feet, and maybe more characters would be used again, right? Like you would, like, let's say you lose out on your, I don't know, what's a good character, like the A-Ravi, for example. Like A-Ravi is globally banned, you don't have to worry about that, so your strategy is gonna shift quite a lot, right? Because like most of the people's strategy is really about the first pick. Like what do you do after the first pick, right? Like that I feel is like the big thing. So maybe they introduce that, but that's a future thing. I'm not saying that this is not good enough, that's why they have to introduce it. I'm just saying that that option has always been there. I don't know why they don't bring it back. Maybe they don't have a system to pick what global ban character would be relevant. Maybe, I don't know. Or it could be tuned by a dev team, like a small dev team, like a one-man job, literally. But yeah, the pre-ban 2 hero thing, I think this is needed. Just again, one of the issues is that the roster is too big, but do keep in mind that again, you're still fighting for the same 5 slots. But the 2 pre-ban thing is kind of RNG, because unless you're a player that is like, you're a streamer or you're a really popular player and people know your strongest picks, it's going to be kind of like up in the air what they pre-ban, right? So I think for a while it will do what it set out to do, which is kind of, if it doesn't feel like it makes RTA more balanced, at least it will spice things up, right? So there's more thinking involved, I have to say. Okay, there's also mid-ban options. So I don't play League of Legends or anything like that, but I think that there's other competitive games that allow mid-ban options, like mid-ban from like a pool or something like that, which could be even trickier, because then you can never, no, actually maybe they shouldn't do that, because then you could really never run a hero that requires another hero, right? Like Caesarea Rance, Caesarea Piera, that kind of thing, I guess, but whatever. That's an idea. So such improvements will enable us quickly respond to the meta and dominant heroes. For example, DPS tank meta is excessively dominating. Battle Frenzy effects will be adjusted to weaken the predominant meta in the short term. So I guess they're talking about A-Ravi here. A-Ravi, Emma Cowrick, yeah, technically they are dominating. But the thing is, you have to ask yourself, like, when have this never dominated? That's where I feel like there's some things that are kind of like, isn't that really obvious? So it's either your DPS tank meta, and I don't believe that they mean literal tank as in a knight. I think they just mean bruiser, right? What we understand as bruiser. So it's either a bruiser or you're a cleaver, right? So you bruiser, but maybe you're more aggro bruiser, but this doesn't say that. So it's like one of the two anyway. So I'm not quite sure if this had to be like brought up, like, oh, this is excessively dominating. It's like been dominating since season 1. There are always going to be cleavers, and that's a gear difference thing though. But like for the most part, bruiser gear is just easier to roll, because whatever stats you roll in the 4 substats, it would always make the bruiser work, as long as it rolls high, right? So like HP, defense, speed, crit rate, crit damage, all mixed and matched on all your other pieces and stuff like that. But like cleave is all like funnel, all speed and all damage, right? So like that's really not a meta thing. It's how you've designed the substats and how stats roll, or what the RNG is given to each player. Really, this is not about because they're the strongest. It's what they have access to be honest. For my opinion, that's how I see it. So the new modes. So this is new modes. There's 2 of them. I have to say, before I even get into this, I have to say I don't feel that these are necessary to be brought up here, because I don't feel that it fixes the meta issue. Whereas I feel like this address feels like it's talking about more of the meta issue. This feels like it could have been added into some kind of hype thing, like, oh, these are new modes coming, not as a solution. But they added it here anyway, so let's talk about it. So E7WC mode, which is features accumulated hero ban system. When pre-banned heroes, each round cannot be used throughout the match. It's basically a tournament-like system. And again, this is not new. This is not just I don't play Summoner's War, but this is in other like games as well. So this is nothing new. Some heroes could be absolutely dominating a single round, but players have to utilize it. So we know how that works, right? So it's like after using them, it's eliminating. And on the global Epic 7 streams and other tournaments, there are kind of gimmicky tournaments or gimmicky kind of round robin kind of things that they do that already. It's just that now it will be in a mode. It will probably have their own UI and stuff like that. So it will probably look fancy. You'd probably be like nice and packaged like they did for World Arena, really good for tournaments and that kind of event kind of stuff. It's one thing, no matter what you have to say, is that Epic 7's visual, the presentation is like spectacular, right? That has never left. So I would imagine this mode would be just as grand, if not better, than regular World Arena, because you're limited in terms of the pool. And then the other one is Arena 3 team versus 3 team mode. So new game mode designed to be more casual than World Arena, but then more challenging than Arena. In this mode, players will form 3 offending teams, battle against 3 defending teams. It seems to be AI Arena. And basically what it reads, it's basically kind of like Advent side story, I guess, because it's 3 team versus 3 team. So I guess it's kind of like that. I'm not quite sure though. So find a good way to motivation to discover new various ways of meta in the long term. After multiple steps and evaluations, we are positive that this new mode will serve an alternative to current Arena and World Arena. So that's a different question. I won't put my own personal opinion in terms of like, do you guys want this? I think there's gonna be some players that would be like, they're looking forward to these new modes. I am usually a gamer based on rewards. So my incentives is usually rewards. So if the rewards are good, yeah, of course I'm gonna play it. It's like Guild War, right? Like so tonight one of my stream viewers was saying that, oh, it's like kind of too bad they didn't talk about like putting more effort into Guild War. A lot of people want a Guild War. I don't know if those people exist anymore. I want a Guild War for a long time. I know that they won't do it anymore. Now here's the reason. Guild War, you're locked to the mystics, right? Outside of using your Sky Stones, shop refreshing, or login rewards, or other rewards or events, you can't get mystics anywhere else. Or maybe hunt drops, I guess. You can't get mystics anywhere else, but Guild War is the primary area to get it. But because it is, everybody has to do the Guild War. So in other words, if you're playing Epic 7 and you do any PvP, let's say you don't do any Arena, you don't do any RTA, are you doing Guild War? The answer is probably yes. If you're not doing Guild War, you're most likely not doing the other PvP. So I don't want these modes to end up being like the Guild War kind of thing either. It was like, but I don't mind it. Like again, if it's like rewards are my personal incentive, other players play for competitiveness, for fun, all those other things, they're all good. I'm not saying anything is right or wrong. I just have to say like, yeah, like unless there's a decent incentive to try this, I probably wouldn't. Like I probably would for a while, but I probably would just ditch it. So like I still been doing my Arena, but after 3 years and not pushing for like Legend or whatever, even I fail to sometimes hit my flags, you know what I mean? And my guild leader has like like, I don't know, almost like he should have like almost 2,000 arena flags now accumulated, because he always buys the friendship ones, but he never uses it. So so it's just like that, right? Like, we don't want that game mode to be like that. And I don't know, like, maybe this will give you more use for some other heroes. I still feel that it's still going to be the handful of the meta heroes. That's my opinion. So short-term system improvements, diversifying heroes in the meta. Medium-term is hero equipment set balances, and a long-term optimized PvP environment. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's see here. Is there anything else? Yeah, so we're preparing a major update for the second quarter, starting with the recent improvement to summoning Moonlight heroes. We're planning to introduce changes that players may obtain to raise heroes and artifacts more easily, and obtain equipment with high stat enough for PvP battle faster. So probably something to do with the min-max rules based on that. And again, it just means that PvP might sooner or later feel more normalized, which is good for players who want to be competitive with like a fair, like we're just like players who don't want to be gear gapped, and players who just want to challenge themselves in terms of the strategy, the turn-based strategy. But if here's the thing, if they make gear too easy to obtain, it's also going to lose the long-term game loop. So in games like this, and games like, so I'm recently playing Lost Ark, and if you're watching this, you might be playing Lost Ark too. Games like Lost Ark, any game that has some kind of like dungeon crawling aspect to it, the more RNG you have, there's like a balance. Too much RNG, you'll frustrate players and they won't want to play. Too easy, and players will get bored of it really quick, because then your builds, you know, account reviews, showcases, they just become less valuable because everybody gets the same stuff anyway. We're not saying that everybody's gonna get the exact same stats, but you guys know what I mean. As soon as you close the gap between really bad gear and really good gear, everything kind of looks about the same. It's not going to be that special anymore. And I'm not saying this from a perspective where I want to keep players from having good gear. It's not like I have like super insane gear that I'm like, oh, I want to keep my good gear and look special and no one can get it. That's not what I'm saying. But in a holistic aspect, this is how an economy works. And if everybody has the same stuff, then no one's rich. You know what I mean? So it does depend on your philosophy from a gaming experience. Like, is that a better thing, or is that a worse thing? I'm not actually saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying that, like, upon reading this, instead of, in case you're the player saying that, whoa, this actually looks really good, I'm just basically showing both sides that it could be bad as well. But either way, however the game is, even the way the game is right now, will appeal to certain players. Once we get these changes, any of the changes that were talked about, it's going to appeal to, it might appeal to the same players, but it might appeal to new players or other players, or players who weren't appealed at the beginning. Now it appeals to them, because I know that like gear RNG has always been a complaint. And some people love the gear RNG because they actually know that's the carrot on the stick that keeps them going. Otherwise, why keep farming? So, and I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, so the update details, major update, 3v3 remote, yeah. So overall, I mean, again, I'm just gonna summarize what I said at the beginning. Overall, I do appreciate that they wrote something. They gave us some insight into what they're planning. I have my doubts on whether or not the staleness that players are feeling are rooted into the problems that they are trying to fix. There is something that I noticed observing myself, and it could just be applying to myself, but I was explaining at least to my community that I don't believe, like after really thinking about it, I don't believe my burnout was because of the meta, was because of like the last season of RTA. I think my burnout was just, it was already accumulating for playing Epic 7 for 3 years, and it was only obvious that I was burnt out because of the meta. Do you know what I mean? So you might feel the same way as me, but you might feel completely different, and I'm not trying to convince you to feel the same way as me, but I think that what I'm trying to get to is that overall, I wouldn't put my eggs into the basket of this letter and saying that if they have implemented all the things that they proposed, the game would be fixed. I'm at a place where I don't feel the game is broken. I can see issues. I don't mind them anymore because I kind of saw that, oh yeah, it's actually because, you know, I've been playing it for so long, 3 years in the game, all right? Like 3 years into any game, people generally lose interest or start burning out. So I wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, it's the meta issue. But is there a meta issue? I definitely see it because, like, you know, any stream you watch, any player you play with, it's pretty much the same picks. So, but I also know from my prediction is that I don't think that's gonna change. Again, limited slots, World Arena. You're like in a box. The fight format is what is really boxing the meta. You're always gonna be striving for the best heroes. So Guild War would be an example. Guild War defense, it's kind of stale because those are the best heroes on defense, right? You're not gonna put an ML Ken on a Guild War defense, right? So it's really the same kind of concept, but in live gameplay for World Arena, that is. Anyways, that's been a long one, 40-minute discussion, and I feel like I had to do this one. I obviously I care about Epic 7 still, so I wanted to address this with as much passion as possible. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and definitely let me know what you guys think about the patch. I know there's gonna be so many different opinions, especially this letter has covered so much stuff. All right, but it's getting late for me. I'm just gonna end this here. If you guys have Discord, check out the Discord server. Follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to YouTube if you haven't. As always, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next time.